All right, let's talk about self-sabotage. Today, we are going to get into how to rewrite those internal scripts that are holding you back. And I'm going to walk you through a super practical plan that you can literally start using the second this is over. You know that feeling, right? Where you have a goal, you have a plan, but somehow you just end up derailing your own progress. Well, here's the good news. This isn't just some random bad habit. It actually follows a really predictable pattern, and that means we can break it. Okay, so let's dive in. To break this cycle, you've got to understand the script it follows first. And at its core is this simple, really powerful, and honestly, often totally invisible loop. This right here is the engine of self-sabotage. It's called the think, feel, do cycle. Think of it like a chain reaction. A negative thought kicks off a negative feeling, which then leads you to do something that just proves the original thought was right. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. It all starts right here, with a single, usually automatic, negative thought. It could be something vague like, I can't do this, or maybe something really specific like, oh, I'm going to bomb this presentation. This is the launch pad for the whole cycle. Now that little thought, it's not just a harmless whisper in your head. Nope, it immediately triggers an emotional response. All of a sudden, you start to feel anxious or overwhelmed or just completely defeated before you've even really started. And what do we do when we feel anxious or defeated? Well, usually we try to avoid whatever's causing it. So we procrastinate, we get distracted, we do literally anything but the task. And by doing that, we end up confirming our original thought. See, I told you I messed it up by not even trying. And just like that, the loop is complete. But here is the most powerful part of this whole thing, and it's the absolute key to breaking the cycle. You don't have to fight the whole monster at once. All you have to do is intervene at one point in the chain, just one, either the thought, the feeling, or the action, and you can change the entire outcome. So let's start with that very first link in the chain, our thoughts. This is where the whole self-defeating process gets its start, so it's a really powerful place for us to jump in. Now, let's be super clear about something important here. This is not about trying to force yourself to think positive with some generic, you can do it, cheerleading. The real goal is to challenge that negative thought with a factual, evidence-based reframe, something that is specific and, most importantly, actually believable to you. Just look at these examples. So instead of that absolute catastrophic thought, I always mess up, you pivot to something that's actually grounded in reality, like, okay, I've handled similar things before and I've learned from my mistakes. You see, it acknowledges that it might be tough, but it focuses on your actual capability and your past experiences. This isn't wishful thinking, it's a smart, strategic shift in your perspective. But just challenging the thought, that's only step one. To really, truly break this cycle, we have to deal with what comes next, that powerful rush of emotion, and then the action that follows. You know, feelings can move way faster than logic. When you feel that wave of anxiety or defeat wash over you, you need a quick way to hit the brakes on your nervous system. And these aren't some complicated, long meditations. We're talking about simple, physical grounding techniques you can do in less than a minute. They just create a little bit of space between that feeling and how you react to it. So here's the crucial point, and you gotta get this. A reframed thought, no matter how great it sounds, is just a fantasy if you don't back it up with proof. And that proof comes from action. You have to connect your new evidence-based thought to a tiny, immediate, 2-minute action. This tiny step is what builds the evidence that your new thought is actually real. And this brings us to the core practical plan. It's a 3-part combo that directly breaks that automatic sabotage loop. First, you reframe the thought. Say your new line, maybe even out loud. Second, regulate the emotion. Take those 3 slow breaths. And third, you act on it. Do a tiny task, like just opening the document or writing one single sentence. Reframe, regulate, act. That is the sequence. Now, doing this once is great. It really is. But the real goal here is to make this new constructive pattern just as automatic as the old destructive one was. So how do we make it a habit? You use what are called anchors. Instead of just relying on willpower, which we all know runs out, you tie your new 3-part combo to a habit you already have. So, for example, while your morning coffee is brewing, you say your reframed thought, you take 3 breaths, and then you schedule one 10-minute focus block for your biggest task. Anchoring it like that helps automate the new behavior. And finally, keep score. Seriously, this step is so important. Every evening, just take 30 seconds to jot down the thought you challenged, how you regulated that emotion, and the tiny action you took. Celebrating these small, concrete wins literally rewires your brain's reward system, and it makes the new pattern feel way more attractive than the old one. That credit you give yourself builds momentum. So let's bring this all together. The reason this whole integrated approach is so effective, so much more than just thinking positive or powering through, it all comes down to one key idea. It's because any single approach by itself is just temporary. If you only change what you do, but you leave those negative thoughts and anxious feelings untouched, you're just going to slip back into your old habits eventually. Real, lasting change only happens when you tackle all three parts at once: the cognitive, the emotional, and the behavioral. And this, right here, this is the ultimate goal. When you finally align what you think, what you feel, and what you do, they stop fighting each other and they start working together. This is how you go from a cycle of self-sabotage to a state of just unstoppable forward momentum. So, as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with a question. What is the one negative thought you're going to challenge? And what's the evidence-based reframe you'll use to rewrite it starting today?